You look great. Sign Walt. Walt. Walt! A magic mirror.
So nice display. Very well. Now, I wanted to show you that wonderful banjo clip because it's a great look at Harper, who wasn't photographed very often. He was always off busy. He never had publicity photo shoots and things like that because he was always busy on site somewhere through his many years with Disney. But he does have a very singular honor here at Disneyland. You all know about the windows on Main Street? Well, Harper has a window, but it's not on Main Street. You may have seen this and wondered. Harper's window is in Adventureland, as is appropriate for the designer of the Jungle Cruise. And now you know why Professor Harper Goff also gives banjo lessons. I don't know about the Oriental tattooing. We won't go into that.
Where is that window displayed?
That window is located just above the bazaar. If you're looking at the Adventureland Bazaar, the river is behind you, and you're looking at the front entrance to the bazaar. It's upstairs to your right. So you'll find it. There's a sweet little staircase and a little gate, and the bougainvillea is blooming, and it's a lovely little spot for Harper's window. So I hope you'll all go over there and hum a little jingle bells in front of it.
Or take a picture?
Or take a picture, or do whatever you want to. That's right. Now, I want to move on to show you a little bit more about Adventureland, but one last thing about the Jungle Cruise, and I'm sure that, this is something you may have heard, but I think it bears repeating. Walt Disney was a stickler for details. You've heard this? Yes, well, it's very true. The details of the shield, all those little idiosyncratic decor pieces were something that he was very keenly interested in, but he also sometimes even took a hand to the projects themselves in a pinch. And I know for a fact that as Disneyland was growing closer and closer to its July 17th, 1955 opening day, the clock was ticking, and there were a lot of holes in a lot of places. And Walt was out inspecting the Jungle Cruise at one point, and they were busy troweling Schweitzer Falls and running behind. So Walt himself said, well, here, let me help, rolled up his sleeves, got a trowel, and helped with the masonry work on Schweitzer Falls. So the next time you go by there, take a little look there, and you can see how well he did. Now, another major addition to Adventureland was in 1962. That was the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. And this was based on the 1960 Disney film. The tree itself opened in 1962 and was built there, too. We didn't plant it. It is a special species. It is a Disneydendron semperflorens grandis, meaning in Latin, we just made it up. But I didn't know if you knew this, but the Swiss Family Robinson tree, although the real one, which is still alive today, is on the island of Tobago, where they filmed the movie. The Swiss Family Robinson tree here at Disneyland actually does really, more than literally, have its roots here in Anaheim, because we didn't have to build the tree in Tobago for the film, but Walt wanted the tree here at Disneyland, as we built it, to look as much like it as possible, and even more grandiose, since people would be up close and personal with it. So he sent his team of Imagineers up the street here, up West Street, to Founders Park here in Anaheim to inspect the Morton Bay fig tree that was planted here by an Anaheim botanist in the 1800s. It is still there on West Street in Founders Park. You can go there and see that enormous root system and say, because the Swiss Family Robinson tree and, of course, its current tenant, Tarzan, have exactly the same root pattern as that Morton Bay fig, because Walt liked it and said, make it look like that. So, talk about your roots, huh? Homegrown.
I see that tree.
Yes, there's so many wonderful things that are around in Southern California that may not have directly inspired Disneyland, but inspired the Imagineers and Walt to kind of think big picture and then take it 1 to 20 steps further. So you never know sometimes as you're tooling around what it is that you're looking at and what role it might have played in your future enjoyment. That's kind of a fun game, I think, with some of us who don't have enough to do, but who really enjoy kind of dissecting all the stories behind the scenes. But the biggest addition to Adventureland of Walt's lifetime came about in 1963 with the premiere of the Enchanted Tiki Room. And most of you know that originally it was going to be a restaurant, because Polynesian restaurants and dining and luau's were very, very big in the 1960s. We have 2 renderings here from Imagineering artists. The orangish one is by John Hench, and the other is by Sam McKim, whom you all know as Disneyland's chief cartographer, among other things. He was the designer of those marvelous souvenir maps. But the restaurant that idea didn't last very long, because like all of Walt's ideas, he said, okay, this is good, now let's add 14 things over here. And then the building got more full. And then, okay, well, we need 24 more things over here, and then the building got more full. Pretty soon, there wasn't room for the restaurant with all of the wonderful show elements that Walt kept adding. So they decided to make this strictly an attraction, and later on, put in a restaurant with the luau theme, and that, of course, became the Tahitian Terrace. But the big thing was that the Enchanted Tiki Room was the true birthplace of what we know today as audio animatronics. It was a beautiful show from the opening, and it still is today. The Imagineers worked full throttle on making it the most exotic, beautiful place you could possibly imagine. Here we see 3 lady Imagineers. Some of you may remember Harriet Burns, the first female Imagineer there in the brown. We have Baroness Glendra von Kessel in the center, who was a very detail-oriented artist. She did a lot of the jeweling and small feathers on the birds of the birdmobile. You can also find her work here in Disneyland in Mademoiselle Antoinette's Parfumery. She and Dorothea Redmond painted the reverse-painted floral sprays on the mirrors that are inside the perfume shop. So you can see half of that is the work of Glendra von Kessel. And then our third lady Imagineer is Leota Toombs, who you will recognize as the face of Madame Leota in The Crystal Ball in the Haunted Mansion, and also the mother of Imagineer Kim Irvine, who helps keep Disneyland beautiful today. Now, you can't just have a beautiful place with nothing going on. Walt was very fond of music, and as you know, he had just some marvelous musicians under his roof there at the studio. But the very first ever full-time staff songwriters at the Disney studio were Richard M. and Robert A. Sherman. And they'd written for many songs for films and television and for records by this time, but the Enchanted Tiki Room was their very first theme park project. It came about because they had mocked up the Tiki Room, or as they called it at that time, the Birdhouse. That's what its working title was, Birdhouse. They mocked the Birdhouse up on one of the sound stages on the studio, and Walt brought Sherman's over there and said, okay, watch this. And they watched this gigantic performance and luau's and singing flowers and all kinds of things and chanting tiki poles. And the Shermans looked at Walt and said, gee, what is this? And Walt said, literally, that's what you're going to do. You're going to write a song that tells everybody what this is. So back they went to their office, and they came up with In the Tiki, 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 Tiki Room. And of course, it's a song everyone knows, and it's been released on records as well. But Walt was enormously proud of the achievement of the Enchanted Tiki Room, not just because it was fun, but mostly because it was a new way of treating animation. He'd started out as a filmmaker. He'd started out making things move and using them to tell stories and create personality. And so by bringing that into tangible, three-dimensional form, the Tiki Room just opened up a whole new avenue of creative expression for him. So not only was he very proud of it, but he had a good time with it too. And no one was happier at the opening day in June of 1963. So I'd like to show you a little clip that is from the 10th anniversary show of Disneyland, where Walt proudly shows off Jose and some other elements of the Enchanted Tiki Room.
It is showtime now in Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room.
Julie, I think you know our fine feathered friend here, Jose, the host of the Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland.
Yes, I've seen him many times there.
Jose, Julie's been selected to represent Disneyland as Miss Tencennial. Do you approve?
Thank you, Jose.
What is this, senorita?
You know, the same scientific equipment that guides rockets to the moon is used to make Jose and his little friends in the Tiki Room sing, talk, move, and practically think for themselves. I guess you could call him a creature of the space age. But why don't we let Jose speak for himself down at Disneyland and show the folks what goes on behind the scenes.
Buenos dias, senor and senoritas. How do you do down there? Ah, aloha. It is showtime now in Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Hurry, hurry to Tiki Room. Tiki's make drum go boom. Magic is happening. All the birds and flowers sing. Better come see this thing. Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Come to the Tiki Room. Hurry to the Tiki Room. Now, friends, before we see the show, I take you behind the scene for a few moments. The whole show runs runs from this room. That fellow is troubleshooter. He is the electric engineer, also veterinarian for all the tiki room actors. Maybe you would like to see how everything works, okay? The water power here goes through the pipes and runs the magic fountain. This is muscle assisting all kinds of relays on this panel. They make the cockatoo head turn left and right, make the flower to open and the tiki gods sing. And here is a special thing to make coffee. Come on to the other side. The buzzer. Uh-oh, the show is going to start. Come along, amigos. You got to find a good seat.
Jose, wake up. It's showtime.
Oh, buenos dias, senorita. My siestas are getting shorter and shorter. Oh, look at all the people. And welcome to Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. And now our national anthem.
Let's sing, let's sing. Tweet, 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 tweet. Let's sing, let's sing. Sweet, 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 sweet. Let's unravel that nightingales. Give us all the treat. Take your time from the birds that you always erase. Sweet, 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 sweet.
Isn't watching the audience almost as much fun as watching the birds? It's pretty great, but again, Walt was so proud of the Tiki Room for introducing a new possibility into animation, and it came about just at the right time, too, because Walt was able to take this new technology and use it to profound effect in the 4 enormous pavilions that he and the Imagineers designed for the 1964 New York World's Fair. And without this enormous technological push, we wouldn't have a Pirates of the Caribbean and a Haunted Mansion and things like that that had been begun under Walt's personal guidance. So the Tiki Room really, as we can say, I guess, got things flying. I want to also point out in the photo here, you see the little robin on the table? That's the robin that sang the duet with Julie Andrews in Mary Poppins. And Walt enjoyed playing with the audio animatronics quite a bit. Very often, if he had somebody that was coming in for a meeting that he kind of wanted to end quickly, he would have that robin on his finger when the person arrived, and he'd be working, and oh yes, and he'd have the joystick down here, and yes, what do you think? Yes, okay, you know. And the person who was having the meeting was just so bamboozled by this that the meeting ended pretty quickly, and Walt got to go back to where he wanted to be. So use your toys to good advantage. Also, I want to mention the voice of Jose that you heard here is probably very familiar to you, not only as Jose, but it's also the voice of Wally Bogue. And we'll be seeing more about Wally Bogue as we journey into our next realm of Disneyland, which is Frontierland. And the frightening thought may have occurred to some of you that since I'm showing you records, there may be an official song for Frontierland. Guess what? You're right.
I did not know that.
There were dangerous days when our country was young. A lot of tales been told, a lot of songs been sung about the men who came to the wilderness and fought with their hands that you and I might live in this mightiest of lands. But the spirit is the same. The pioneer lives on, cause the pioneer's a cowboy, the Indian's his friend. The story of the West ain't never gonna end.